Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, one of the animes I've been waiting to talk about for a long time. Its memes, its themes, its art, its dialogues, its character design, and its awesome as hell power system. Each of its aspects have made me dive deeper into its fandom, and I'm not gonna lie, I've spent quite a few sleepless nights arguing about stands with random redditors. Jojo's is one of those anime that you have to watch if you really want to see how weird and awesome anime can actually get. So, I'm glad you clicked on this video, because I'm gonna take you through one hell of a journey recapping this masterpiece of a show. Before we begin though, I want to let you know that we're gonna cover Jojo in parts, following in Araki Sensei's footsteps. So, this video is just gonna be about Phantom Blood. However, don't worry, the rest of the parts are gonna be published in our channel one by one. Just stay with us. Alright, with that over, let's get started. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure begins with a rather bizarre night. In the very first episode, Dio the Invader, we see Dario Brando, this alcoholic deadbeat man stumbling upon a crash site with his wife. At the crash, there's Jonathan Joestar. Apparently, George was going somewhere with his wife and his little baby before he got into a horrible accident. Dario spots him, however, instead of helping him, he starts stealing George's belongings. Not cool, bro. As he's doing that, George wakes up, and the kind of utterly clueless guy that he is, he thinks that Dario saved him. He asks Dario whether his wife and child are alright, to which Dario says that George's wife died protecting his child. And well, after a little crying sesh, George then tells Dario that he'll forever be in his debt for saving him. Great. And there's also this mask thing that kinda activates when George's blood touches it, but we'll get to that later. The scene then changes to when Jonathan Joestar, George's son, and Dio Brando, Dario's son, are all grown up, and something tells me that their paths are definitely gonna cross. Jonathan, aka Jojo, aka our very own main character's life, is all sunshine and rainbows. Meanwhile, Dio's life is kind of, rainfall and garbage-like. His dad definitely sucks. He's still a deadbeat and he asks for booze all the time. And yeah, Dio's also super poor since, yep, his dad just sucks. Meanwhile, Jojo has all the riches in the world and yeah, his life is super duper awesome. One day, Jojo stumbles upon this girl named Irina Pendleton. Two stupid boys are bullying her. They take her doll and try to remove the doll's frock to see if it has lady bits. A-class perverts. Jojo sees this and intrudes to stop them, and although he achieves that goal, he does end up getting beaten up by them. Irina tries to thank Jojo for saving her dolly, and in response, Jojo tries to act all Sigma in front of her.
Just leave me alone! I'll be fine! I did not take a beating just now for your sake! All I want is to conduct myself as a gentleman!
Back with Dio, his deadbeat father Dario finally takes his last breath. The day Dio's been waiting for, apparently. Before dying, Dario gives Dio an envelope, telling him to show it to Jonathan Joestar so that he can adopt him, and Dio gladly accepts. Dio then finally enters into the Joestar mansion, and by extension, into Jojo's life, and he makes quite the entrance. What's more, he also kicks Jojo's dog Danny as soon as he arrives. Like, damn, bro is not holding back. The next few days, Dio makes Jojo's life a living hell. He acts all goody-goody in front of Jojo's dad and literally becomes the devil incarnate in front of Jojo. He isolates Jojo from his friends and his dad, spreading rumors about him, and makes sure to be Jojo in all the activities he likes, proving himself to be better than him. Good old nemesis stuff. By the end of it all, Jojo is left with nothing and no one.
Jojo the Squealer! Dio! He's slandering me!
Well, except for his cute little dog Danny. Still, things become a bit better for Jojo when Irina comes back into the picture. She leaves some grapes for Jojo as a gift for saving her that day and extends a hand of friendship, which soon turns into a,
Life was suddenly made brighter by love's growing embers.
Yeah, you guessed it. A new romance. Dio sees this and boy he isn't happy about it. Why? Because he is, a bitchy man. That's just what I think. Anyway, Dio hates that Jojo has found someone who loves him so dearly and decides to do something about it. And boy, does he take it too far. One day, when Irina is just going about her merry way, Dio confronts her and kisses her forcefully. Damn it, this man.
You thought your first kiss would be Jojo, but it was I, Dio!
He does this because, he wants to kiss her before Jojo does, which is just, real great. Irina breaks down after this happens because, of course, she does. However, as soon as she comes to her senses, she she starts washing her mouth with dirty puddle water. You tell him, girl. Dio doesn't like this, of course, and so he slaps her for doing it. Because how dare she consider Dio's divine kiss dirty? Brother, if you did that to me, I'd be taking 100 showers. But anyway, Jojo hears about this and oh, it's on. He goes in to beat Dio to a pulp. Dio takes him for granted because he thought he was better than Jojo and everything, but boy is he wrong. Turns out when it comes to protecting his loved ones, Jojo's the man, and he makes quick work of Dio in no time. While they're fighting, some of Dio's blood gets spilled on the mask from earlier, and yeah, it activates again. Unfortunately though, before anything happens, the fight gets interrupted by Jonathan Joestar. This man, I tell ya. And yeah, he tells Jojo to go easy on Dio before sending both of them to their rooms. Dio is seething at the thought of Jojo beating him, and to get revenge, he burns his dog. Nope, I'm not kidding. Dio literally traps Danny into the trash burner and the poor dog just burns to death. Yup, I thought Sukuna was heartless, but he looks like a damn fairy in front of this bitch man. The next episode, A Letter from the Past, begins with the visual of Jack the Ripper. Yup, that famous serial killer fella from London. Don't know what that's about. Yet. Back with Jojo though, it's been 7 years since the last episode, and it looks like Dio is kinda chummy with him now. However, if you'd know Dio any better, you'd know he's cooking something behind the scenes. Also, both Jojo and Dio are kind of huge now, since they're not boys anymore, they're men. Dio's studying law, and Jojo's studying archaeology, and they're both really good in sports, along with everything else I guess. Back with Jojo's dad, he's been sorta sick for a while, and both Dio and Jojo look worried about him. However, Jojo feels there's something fishy here, since his dad became sick out of nowhere. Good to know he's on his toes. One day, while Jojo was studying the mask, yup, that very mask that activates when blood is spilled over it, he stumbles upon a letter. The same letter that Dio's father, Dario Brando, gave to him before he died. After some more research, Jojo finds something interesting. Dario had the same symptoms as Jojo's dad before he died. He also finds out that Dio is the one who's been giving George his medicines. Great. Jojo confronts Dio about it and Dio gets defensive. However, Jojo knows Dio hated his father more than he hated anyone else in the world, and so he knows there's a solid possibility that Dio poisoned his own father, and now he's poisoning his adoptive father too. Sounds like daddy issues to me. Jojo has a solid theory now, but he lacks proof, so he leaves for London to get some. Apparently, London is where Dio spent his childhood, and it probably also houses his poison supplier. Jojo hopes to find out exactly what's in the medicine that Dio was giving to George. He also has plans to get the medicine tested by an apothecary. As he's doing that, he gives his butler strict instructions telling him to check and examine everything that George takes a bite of. And of course, he also tells the butler to make sure to keep Dio away from him. In London, Jojo stumbles upon Ogre Street, an area famous for harboring a lot of thugs and criminals. That's when he crosses paths with Robert E.O. Speedwagon. I can tell you now itself that this beauty of a man is gonna stay with us for quite a while. Speedwagon, along with 2 other thugs, attack Jojo. However, Jojo tanks all of it while going easy on them. Speedwagon asks Jojo why he did that, to which Jojo replies that there must be someone at home waiting for him, and so he'd hate for them to have any grief because of him. This wins Speedwagon's heart, and he himself takes Jojo to the apothecary. Back with Dio, he steals Jojo's mask. Yup, that same mask, and he plans to kill Jojo with it. Dio knows the mask gets activated with blood, however, he doesn't know what happens when someone wears it, and so he uses a roadside thug as a guinea pig to test it out. Turns out, the mask actually turns people into a vampire. Yup, insane as hell. And so, the thug turns into a vampire and tries to drain the life out of Dio. However, out of sheer luck, Dio walks away with his life, because, the sun conveniently shows up just as he is about to die. In the next episode, Youth with Dio, Jojo gets back from London and drops the bomb.
You're a poisoner, Dio Brando. I have all the proof I require and then some.
As soon as Dio hears that, he starts apologizing, which is not exactly what Jojo thought he'd do. Dio tells Jojo that he's a broken man now and that he's ready to turn himself in. He then also starts mentioning his sad backstory stuff, including the fact that his dad was a loser and he was the reason his mom died, something which scarred him for life. As Dio's continuing his yap session though, Speedwagon shows up from the shadows. Yup, turns out Speedwagon followed Jojo like a full-on stalker. According to him, he just felt like protecting the gentle giant Jojo, so he just decided to appoint himself as his best friend / advisor for life. Anyway, Speedwagon tells Jojo not to believe a word that Dio is saying. He says that he, of all people, knows what scum smells like, and Dio's probably the worst one he smelled yet. Oh boy. He also adds that Dio looks like he was born evil, so the sad backstory stuff doesn't matter. Okay, kinda savage. Speedwagon then also reveals that he brought a gift with him, the man who sold Dio the poison. Yup, there's your proof. With that revelation, Jojo's father shows up from behind the curtains, that too with the police. Now, it's just a matter of time before the authorities arrest Dio, or so I thought. Before anyone can arrest our bitch man here, he pulls a straight up illegal move. He rushes towards Jojo with a knife, all so he can spill his blood onto the mask and become a vampire. He also says that the Joestar blood is the key to this, but well, if that was true, why did the thug in the last episode turn into a vampire? Alright, anyway, as Dio rushes in with his knife, George comes in between and takes the blow, protecting Jojo from Dio's wrath. His blood then spills onto the mask and Dio wears it. And yeah, as soon as he wears it, he dies. Jojo screams in agony, seeing that his father is also dying now. Yup, that blow was pretty hard. He calls for doctors, but his father tells him to calm down. He then also apologizes to him for being extra hard on him. Apparently, he had to do that because that's how Joestars are raised. Speedwagon sees this and burst into tears. He said that till now he thought all rich men are scum, but well, he can clearly see that the Joestars are different. Maybe they practice conscious capitalism, I don't know. Anyway, as all that's happening, we get to know something interesting. Apparently, George wasn't the clueless guy we all thought he was. He knew Dario only came in to steal from him when that horrible accident happened. He found out when Dario tried selling his ring to a local seller. However, he forgave Dario and even bailed him out of jail. The only thing that he ever wanted out of Dario was for him to get his life together for the sake of his family. When Dio came in, George knew he didn't owe him anything. Still, he treated him like a son all the same. Why? Because George was just a generous man and he tried helping whoever he could. Damn. Sucks that he's dying now. As George takes his last breaths, Dio takes one of his first as a brand new vampire. He suddenly strikes at a police officer and obliterates him, setting Jojo in a panic mode because what the hell just happened? Dio then bites another officer and well, he turns into a vampire too. Great! Vampire officer then starts chasing Speedwagon because he's hungry for his blood. However, Jojo saves Speedwagon just in time by obliterating vampire officer's head. Jojo's had enough now. He wants to destroy Dio for killing his dad and for pulling this stunt, and so he comes up with a plan. Jojo tries to burn Dio with fire, however, Dio's regeneration ability combats that easily. After that, Jojo tells Speedwagon to get out of the house because he now plans to try something stupid and main character-like. Jojo plans to die with Dio in the fire, all to burn him long enough for his regeneration to give out. However, he switches gears as he tries to go ahead with his plan. Instead of holding Dio himself, Jojo punches him into a pillar, and well, Dio gets stuck in it. And because he gets stuck, he burns like a tandoori kebab on a stick. Damn! Miraculously, Jojo makes it out of the burning house alive, because of course he did. However, as the episode ends, we see that Dio might just be alive. You know, chuck that. He's definitely alive. The next episode, Overdrive, picks up where we left off. Jojo's house is now burned to ashes, and he's lost quite a lot, money-wise and otherwise. Thankfully though, he himself made it out alive. Back with Dio, yep, he's still alive, and he's taken his poison supplier as his minion now. To add more to the list of Dio's minions, he also recruits Jack the Ripper after turning him into a zombie. Yup. Apparently Dio has the ability to do that. Just by touching a corpse, Dio can inject his vampiric essence into it, turning the corpse into a zombie with a twisted loyalty to Dio. After turning Jack the Ripper, Dio gives him the task of being his food delivery guy. Back with Jojo, he's still recovering, all while hanging out with the love of his life, Irina. Suddenly though, he stumbles upon an interesting man. Meets Will A. Zappelli, a mysterious Italian man with miraculous capabilities and a habit of pouring too much pepper in his sandwiches. Jojo is confused, however things become clear when Zappelli punches Jojo with Hamon, an energy with properties of the sun, and just like that, all of Jojo's injuries are gone. Apparently, Hamon is the antithesis to vampiric abilities, and is also the key to destroying vampires like Dio. Zappelli claims that Jojo is the chosen one, and he also offers him a chance to be his mentee and learn Hamon. And what do you know, Jojo agrees. After a few hours of special breathing practice, which is essentially how one generates Hamon energy, energy, Zeppeli tells Jojo how he knows about vampires and their existence. Long ago, when Zeppeli was a young lad, he went to an archaeological expedition in Mexico. There, he and his crew discovered a mysterious mask. Yup, that same mask. Unfortunately though, after a crew member wears it and turns into a vampire, all of Zeppeli's crew, except Zeppeli himself, dies one by one. Later, we also find out that the guy who got turned into a vampire was none other than Zeppeli's own dad, who also died right in front of Zeppeli because sunlight. Later, as Jojo makes progress in his hormone training, Speedwagon finds out that Dio might be in Win Knight's lot, a quiet rural village near London. Apparently, a lot of people there have been disappearing, and the folks have seen some weird stuff. As our crew travels over there, Jojo realizes that he forgot to say goodbye to Irina, and because of that, he pledges to return to her life. Yeah. Jojo is not a great boyfriend, I guess. Anyways, our crew soon reaches the village where they come face to face with Jack the Ripper, who greets them from inside the horse of their chariot. Jeez. Zeppeli tells Jojo that he has to destroy Jack with his hormone. It's his first test, and not just that, he has to pass it while holding a glass of wine. Jojo struggles in the beginning, however, when he starts flowing his hormone energy through the glass itself, he easily obliterates Jack. Thank God. The following episode, The Dark Knights, opens with a visual of Win Knight's lot. It sure looks peaceful now, but for how long? Our crew continues their journey and Speedwagon is having a hard time keeping up. It's at that time that we meet Poco, this little kid who's going to be kind of important to our story. Poco strikes in and steals Speedwagon's hat and his bag, filled with money by the way, and begins climbing his way out. However, our crew here catches up to him in no time. It's at that moment that they realize that they've been fooled. The kid was actually hypnotized by Dio to bring the crew to that specific location. As Poco snaps out of it, Dio appears in front of our crew. Zeppeli catches a glimpse of Dio and goes on the offensive. However, he soon realizes that Dio is just on another freaking level. Dio freezes Zeppeli's arm by manipulating his body temperature via blood control, and because of that, Zeppeli is unable to use hormone. Seeing this, Jojo comes to Zeppeli's rescue and saves him right in time. And it's at that moment that Dio reveals two more of his minions, his loyal zombie knights. We then find out just who these knights are. They're Tarkus and Bruford. Apparently, these knights were super famous for serving Mary Stuart, the Queen of Scots. They were super loyal to her and they were awesome at their job. However, after Mary gets caught and betrayed by her cousin Elizabeth I just for being a challenger to the throne of England, she has to spend the rest of her life in a cell on top of a freaking tower. Tarkus and Bruford both fight tooth and nail to rescue Mary from Elizabeth. However, Elizabeth offers them another proposition. She tells them to sacrifice their lives if they want Mary to be freed, and that they agree to do rather happily. But just as they're about to die, they found out they've been fooled. Turns out Mary has already been killed. Oh boy. And because of all of that, they now harbor all this hate inside their souls. Bruford starts attacking Jojo with all his might, and that too with his hair. He has Danse Macabre hair, meaning he can manipulate his hair to use it like a weapon. Jojo fights back with hormone. However, to counter that, Bruford throws Jojo into a lake. No oxygen, no hormone. Episode 6 starts off with Jojo and Bruford fighting underwater. Since Jojo needs oxygen to activate his hormone, he can't fight back with Bruford at first. However, when he figures out that there are air pockets under the rocks, he uses them to generate hormone and gets out of the lake. Smart stuff, really. The fight then gets shifted to land, where Bruford's hair still seems to be a big-ass problem. Bruford changed Jojo to a tree using his hair. Speedwagon and Zeppeli want to help Jojo with this, but they're rather busy in a staring contest with Tarkus. Bruford's hair starts sucking on Jojo's blood. The more he struggles, the tighter they become. Bruford comes at Jojo with his blade for a final blow. However, Jojo somehow frees his legs from his hair to give Bruford's sword a hormone-filled kick. Hormone then flows through Bruford's sword and starts attacking his body, instantly melting his arm. After that happens, Jojo gets freed from Bruford's hair prison and starts punching the hell out of him. Bruford scoffs. This pain is nothing compared to the pain he felt when he died. To this, Jojo doesn't know how to react, and he just freezes, thinking about all the pain Bruford must have felt when he died. Bruford sees Jojo's reaction, and he tries attacking Jojo all the same for it. However, he can't, seeing that he's a rather good lad who doesn't deserve to suffer through all of this. Jojo tells Bruford that if he can still feel pain, he's still human, and it's at that moment that we find out that the hormone Jojo hit Bruford with is still working apparently. It's destroying the hate filled in his soul. The hate that Dio injected with him while reanimating him, along with the hate that he felt when he died all those years ago. The hormone gives Bruford a rather peaceful death this time, and he thanks Jojo for it by giving his lucky, or should I say plucky, sword to him. With that done, Tarkus starts looking at Jojo, itching to attack, and well, we also find out that Dio left left long ago because he has better things to do apparently. Zeppeli and Speedwagon finally join the fight, and it's at that moment that we get another Zeppeli related flashback. A long time ago, Zeppeli was in India, where he met a healer who could use Hamon to heal people. That was the first time Zeppeli came face to face with the life energy that Hamon is. Zeppeli asked the Indian healer where can he learn this skill, and the healer points him in the direction of a monk who sees Zeppeli's future as soon as he arrives using Hamon through his eyes. The monk tells Zeppeli that he will die in his quest to destroy the mask, and Zeppeli can feel that through his veins right about now. He knows his dying moment is nearby. Tarkus destroys the entire area that Jojo and the crew were standing on. However, Jojo and Zeppeli use Hamon through a rock and fly away with the crew to an abandoned castle. Tarkus chases them, of course, and Jojo goes into the castle to see if there's a safe place for Poco to rest in. It's at that time that Tarkus takes a shortcut through a tunnel and locks Jojo inside the castle, with the entire crew outside. Tarkus also changed Jojo to himself, and well, it looks like he's in the mood to play some twisted game. The crew tries to help Jojo, but they're locked outside. However, soon enough, Poco sees a small tunnel that goes into the castle, a tunnel that only he can fit into. However, the boy's so damn scared that he wets himself, so he doesn't know if he can do what he's thinking of doing. Poco then starts thinking about his bullies and how he could never stand up to them. It was always his sister who had to save him, Mikasa Ackerman style. Every time she saved Poco, she urged him to stand up for himself, and her words from way before finally work. Poco stops standing around and gets into the tunnel, and you know what? The little brat manages to open the gate from the inside. He's a pretty good kid, I tell ya. He gets injured in the process, but he's rather happy that he chose to do something rather than standing around this time. The next episode, Sorrowful Successor, begins with another Zeppeli flashback. Zeppeli asks his master, the one who saw his future, some more details about how he'll die, and the master tells him that it will all start with the little kid leading the way, after which Zeppeli will sacrifice his life for a rising star who will save the world from a disastrous catastrophe. Yup. Looks like Zeppeli's definitely gonna die in this episode. Back to the present, Zeppeli and Speedwagon enter into the castle only to see Jojo struggling and chained. Zeppeli helps Jojo by pulling some Hamon shenanigans. However, Tarkus slices Zeppeli in half for it. As Zeppeli's dying, he gives all of his Hamon to Jojo, along with his special ripple powers. As he takes his last breaths, Jojo gets extremely mad at Tarkus, telling him that he chose the wrong path when he decided to follow Dio. With the extra Hamon and the extra anger, Jojo then defeats Tarkus in a jiffy. After that, Jojo holds Zeppeli and thanks him for his sacrifice. In his last moments, Zeppeli reveals that he left his wife to pursue the mask. He knew he would die for a greater purpose, and that Jojo shouldn't cry over him, because he's utmost satisfied with his death. Damn. Back with Dio, he's busy in creating a zombie army by turning the people of Wind Knight's lot into his zombie slaves. He confronts a defenseless woman with a child. The woman asks Dio to spare her child, and well, he does. However, after she gets turned into a zombie, she eats her child herself. Sheesh. Back with Jojo, a mysterious man approaches him, along with two others. Turns out, these are Zeppeli's friends. One is the master that we saw in the flashbacks, and the other two are his Hamon user classmates, called Dyer and Streza. All of them have arrived here to aid Jojo, and believe me, he's gonna need it. Episode 8 is titled Bloody Battle, Jojo and Dio, and that's what it's all about. It starts with Poco going home to see if his sister is okay, and well, guess she's not. Cause she's missing. Apparently, she was looking for Poco when Dio zombies abducted her. Dio tries to turn her into a zombie, but she blatantly rejects him. So he orders one of his minions to eat her. Not to worry though, cause Jojo and the crew show up to save her in time. The crew then directly heads towards Dio, who's shocked to see that Jojo defeated both of his loyal knights. Jojo heads towards Dio for a final battle, however, Dyer wants dibs here. Dyer attacks Dio and unfortunately he fails, losing his life in the process in a second. However, as he's dying, he throws a rose filled with Hamon to Dio's precious face to give him a scar, I guess? Jojo loses his cool again and finally starts attacking Dio, all while Streza and Master take care of the extras. What's Speedwagon doing, you ask? Oh, he's just blatantly narrating as the fight goes on, kinda like what I'm doing right now. Jojo takes out the sword that Zeppeli gave to him and almost slices Dio in half. However, Dio's relentless soul refuses to lose, so he puts himself back together again. He also freezes Jojo in return so that he can't attack him anymore. Dio tries to inject Jojo with his essence, however, Jojo pushes it out through his Hamon. A neat trick, I must say. Jojo then uses fire to his advantage and transfers some Hamon into Dio. Someone gotta tell Dio to stay away from fire by now. In an instant, Jojo slices Dio's shoulder and gives him a final Hamon blow, and that's it for him. He's finally dead. Psych! Yeah, did you think it was over for this guy? Oh, you are so wrong. The last episode of the final part, the final ripple, starts where we left things off. The guy who saved Dio's life the first time? Yeah, the Asian apothecary guy. Yeah, he does it again. He takes Dio's head to a safe place, all while our crew burns Dio's body, thinking that they're done with him. Oh, and yeah, Speedwagon destroys the mask too. I think Sapelli is smiling on him from heaven right about now. The London press reports that about 73 residents have gone missing overnight from Winnight's lot. But hey, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, Dio was gonna enslave the whole world. So we then cut to a few months later, and Jojo is finally marrying the love of his life, Irina Pendleton, or should I say Joestar now? The couple then heads to their honeymoon to America on a really expensive cruise ship, and the rest of the crew is seen waving them goodbye. We then also see their honeymoon gift in a really expensive coffin. Yup, it's Dio's head. Unbeknownst to this, Jojo and Irina go ahead and have a romantic dinner at the cruise ship. Jojo even offers Irina some wine, her first time drinking by the way. However, all of these awesome happy moments are ruined when Jojo spots the Asian apothecary. He follows him, and there it is, Dio's freaking head. Dio tells Jojo that he respects him the most, and that he will only take the body of a man that he respects to reach his peak level. This isn't good. It's at that time that a woman and her child stumble upon them, along with Irina following suit. The woman is killed instantly because, surprise surprise, Dio's lackey turned a few people into zombies. However, she dies protecting her kid. Jojo sees this and knows that in about a few minutes the entirety of the ship is going to be filled with zombies, and so he tells Irina to get out so that he can destroy the ship. Irina refuses. She said she'd rather die with Jojo than live without him. However, Jojo points to the kid. He tells her that just like his mother died protecting him, this kid's mother did the same for him. Now all he wants is Irina to make sure that her sacrifice wasn't in vain. Irina hesitates and cries, but eventually agrees and kisses Jojo goodbye. As that happens, Jojo holds Dio's head and uses his hormone to burn the entire ship. The entire ship drowns with Jojo and Dio in it thanks to Jojo's sacrifice. And Irina makes it out safely with the kid, thanks to Dio's expensive coffin thingy. As the episode ends, we also find out that Irina had a little Jojo inside her belly, which is great news, you guys. I'm so happy for them, or her, cause he's definitely dead. As for Dio, well, I have trust issues on that matter. So that's where we wrap up JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1 Phantom Blood. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this one that much, but I think it still has some really good moments. What do you think? Does Phantom Blood deserve all the criticism it gets? Tell us in the comments. Oh, and before you go, have a good day, and as usual, thanks for watching and making it to the end.